Okay, go ahead and grab your textbooks. Today we're going to look at, we put this in our IMB a little bit yesterday. We're going to take a look at percents and decimals, which is lesson 3, and starts on page 109. Go ahead and open your textbook to that. When you get there, go ahead and scan the lesson and find 2 real-world scenarios where we would write decimals as percents. And go ahead and pause the video at this time so that you can complete that. Okay, if you take a look here, some examples you might have found might be writing decimals as percents to show percent of body weight that a Komodo dragon can eat in one meal. You might have seen what percent of the corn crops are grown in the United States. Those are a couple examples. You may have others that you wrote down. Just some real world, seeing how decimals and percentages relate to the world around us. Even talking about money, we can find the percentage of a dollar. We can find the percent that someone has earned. Okay, looking with money. Good, take a look then at our real world link. It says that a recent survey tells the favorite subjects of students at Martin Middle School. So you see math, art, science, English, and social studies, and then there's a category for other. Okay? We're going to write a fraction with a denominator of 100 to represent the percent for each subject. Remember that percent means literally out of 100. If you recall from yesterday, we talked about that part of the word, the cent, meaning 100. Century means 100 years. There are 100 cents in a dollar, things like that. Okay, so if we take a look at math, it's 28%. That would literally mean 28 out of 100. Science means 21 out of 100. Social studies was 15 out of 100. Art was 16 out of 100. English was 13 out of 100, and other was 7 out of 100. So if we were changing those to fractions, obviously we would simplify them, but in this case we're trying to get them to decimal form. So if we look at math, if I read this 28 hundredths could be written as the decimal 28 hundredths. 16 hundredths could be written as the decimal 16 hundredths. English, 13 hundredths. Be careful with this other. It's 7 hundredths, so it does need a 0 to hold that place so that the 7 is in the hundredths place. Social studies would be 15 hundredths, and science would be 21 hundredths. Okay, so to change those, we think about them as out of 100, and then we can write it using place value. Okay, so we just did that up above. You can go ahead and fill those in here, or if you have them up above, that's fine. Compare the decimals to percents. We could take off the percent sign to show a whole number and move the decimal point 2 places to the left, which is kind of a method we're going to use. That's the one that is in your INB. So turn to page 110. In our key concept, it says to write a percent as a decimal, we're going to divide by 100. So if we're dividing, we're going from percent to decimal. Okay, we should have division that's happening. Okay, divide by 100. We don't really want to divide by 100 because in our place value base 10 system, dividing by 10 would mean that I'm moving it one place. So if I have 48%, any whole number, the decimal is behind it. Dividing by 10 would be one place. Dividing by 100 would be 2 places. So if I change 48% to a decimal, I remove the percent sign, I move that decimal back 2 places, which means to divide by 100, and then my decimal would be 48 hundredths. We could also write it as a fraction like we did on the page before, and then go to a decimal, but I think most of you are going to find that moving it those 2 places to the left, dividing by 100 because there's 100 possible percents, will be a little bit easier. Take a look at example number 1. Both methods are shown here, so we could write it as 56 over 100 and then change it to this decimal. My preferred method, I have 56%. I'm going to get rid of the percent sign. My decimal is always behind the whole number. I'm going to divide by 100, which means my decimal is going 2 places to the left. If you compare 56% compared to 56 hundredths, remember that these are equal in value. They're in just two different forms. But in this case, it almost looks to our eye that this one almost looks smaller. The decimal sort of appears smaller, even though they are exactly the same value. So I always think this one looks smaller, so I must be dividing to get there. And to divide, I have to make it smaller. Dividing goes to the left. Okay, when we go the other way, when we multiply, we'd be getting bigger, or appear to be getting bigger. Look at number 2. Here we have 8%. If I take 8% and I remove the percentage sign, I have a decimal behind my whole number. I'm going to divide by 100, but this time I need to use a place value holder. So I'm going to annex a 0 there to make that 8 hundredths. If I get 8 tenths, these are not equivalent. This is equivalent to 8%. This is actually equivalent to 80%. So that would be very different. So be careful to get that placeholder in. 2%, I get rid of my percentage sign. There's my decimal. Divide by 100, left 2 places. Annex that 0 in, and I get 2 hundredths. If this seems to be making sense, you can continue on here and try the got it's and pause the video at this time to do so. If it's not making sense, you may want to rewind and watch parts of this again just until it's clicking and you're feeling comfortable and confident. If you're ready to move on to got it, go ahead and pause. If we take a look here at our got it problems, we have 32%. I remove the percentage sign, I divide by 100, I get 32 hundredths. You can have the 0 in front as well. If I remove the percentage sign for B, there's 6%. Move back 2 places, divide by 100, that makes 6 hundredths. Be careful to annex that 0. Letter C, if I have 93%, I remove the percentage sign, I divide by 100, and I get 93 hundredths. If you did pretty well on those, you're feeling comfortable and confident, let's go on to page 111. If not, take a minute and go back and review. On page 111, now we're going to go the other way. So on the page before, we went from a percent to a decimal. Now we're going to go decimal to percent. Well, the nice part about these is that really this is just the opposite. So instead of dividing now, we're going the other way. So we're going to multiply by 100. Multiplying by 100 means moving the decimal point now 2 places to the right. So if I have the decimal 36 hundredths, here's my decimal. I want my percentage to appear to be larger even though they're equivalent values. Okay, I'm multiplying by 100, 2 places to the right, makes this 36%. And if you remember when we're finding our scores on homework, let's say you got 3 out of 4 on an assignment. This is part of what you do. You go 3 divided by 4. That gives you your decimal. If you want to change that decimal to a percent, then you're multiplying by 100, moving that decimal 2 places to the right, which makes this 75%. Okay, these are all equivalent. 3/4, 75 hundredths in decimal form, and 75% are all equivalent values, just in different forms. Okay. Let's take a look then at example 4. I have 38 hundredths, and they want me to change that to a percent. So I have 38 hundredths. To change to a percent, I'm going to multiply by 100, which means moving my decimal 2 places to the right. It appears I'm getting larger, which gives me 38 and percent. That would be the equivalent value for 38 hundredths. Now let's look at number 5. They want me to write 2 tenths as a percent. So if I have 2 tenths, I'm multiplying by 100, 2 places to the right. You'll notice that I have an empty spot where I need to annex a 0. So this now becomes 20%. Be careful, 6th graders. Sometimes I see on this one somebody who gets a 2%. That would only be multiplying by 10 if you stopped there. That's not an equivalent value. 2% and 2/10 are not the same. So we have to make sure that we multiply by 100 and move it 2 places to the right. If you think you've got it, you're feeling comfortable and confident, go ahead and try these Godits, D, E, and F. If you need to go back and review, rewind the video, watch it again, make sure you're making sense of it. Otherwise, if you've got it, go ahead and pause the video and complete letters D, E, and F. If we take a look here, if I have 47 hundredths, here's my decimal. I multiply by 100 to get to a percent. This becomes 47%. If I have 73 hundredths, 2 places to the right, multiplying by 100, I get 73%. Here, if I have 5/10, 2 places to the right, I have to annex a 0, making this 50%. I could sometimes have something like this, where I have 0.325, and I'm changing that to a percent. I still multiply by 100 and only move it 2 places. That would make this 32 5/10%, or 32.5%. It's okay to have a decimal in our percentage. Okay? Again, if you're feeling comfortable and confident, we'll proceed to page 112. If not, go back and review anything that might not be making sense. Excuse me. On the top of page 112, you see this word problem. The United States produces more corn than any other country, producing 4/10 of the total corn crops. They want us to change and write 4/10 as a percent to figure out what percentage of the crop that is. Okay, so if I have 4/10, I'm changing to a percent, so that means I have to multiply by 100. So I'm going to get 40%. So 40% of the total corn crops are produced by the United States. If you're feeling pretty comfortable and confident, at this time I'd like for you to pause the video and complete 1 through 7 in the guided practice, just to make sure we're in a good place before we move on to homework. Take a minute, pause the video. Okay, when we're changing percents to decimals, it kind of appears we're getting smaller. So I remove that percent sign, divide by 100, I get 27 hundredths. Remove the percent sign, divide by 100, I'll get 15 hundredths. Remove that percent sign, divide by 100, annex the 0, I get 4 hundredths. When we go to decimal to percent, now it appears we're getting larger. So we're going to multiply by 100. So we get 30%. Multiply by 100, 82%. And multiply by 100, 51%. Now let's look at our word problem number 7. About 7/10 of the human body is water. What percent is equivalent to 7/10? Well, if I have 7/10 and I want to change to a percentage, it appears I'm getting larger, even though they're equivalent values. So I multiply by 100, annex my 0, and I get 70%. Because it's a word problem, I'd really prefer that we have the label. So 70% of the human body is water. Would be a better answer than just writing the 70%. Okay? If you're feeling comfortable and confident, we're going to go ahead and move on to homework. If you feel that you need to go back and re-watch anything that might help you to be in a better place for homework, please feel free to do so. Watch, re-watch anything that you have. Ask a question of a classmate. Make sure that we're in a good place with this material. If you're ready for homework, we're going to go to page 113, and you're going to complete, just on page 113, you're going to do 1 through 12 today. Okay? 1 through 12 on page 113. Feel free to use your resources. You do have information in your INB that you can go back to. We've written some notes in your text here. Look back as you're working through this. We will check this homework tomorrow, so that is due on Thursday, so be prepared with that. If you finish your homework, then you can go ahead and use your iPad to work on some of the IXL skills. I have emailed those to you, but you can also find them on our homework page. If you scroll over, we're the general class, so these ones. My expectation is 80% or higher on all of those skills by December 21st. Okay? Good luck, do your best, and I will see you tomorrow.